Okay. Are you there? Okay. Am I live? Am I on? Oh. Well, I just did the whole YouTube, like go live on YouTube. Hey. Okay. Are you there? No. Okay. Am I live? Yes. Oh. Well, I just did the whole YouTube, like go live on YouTube. That's what I forgot. Okay. Yes, embed, right? Hey. Embed. Copy. Got it. Well, I gotta delete it first. Hold on. Okay. I got it. Hold on. I think I got it. Got it. Oh, it's on the left. Can you see it? Got it. Okay, so how the hell did I get back to it?
Hey, hey,
Hello.
hey. Do you want to set me as co-host and I can help you let people in and all that stuff?
Okay, sorry, I was recording it. That was one thing I didn't do.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Participants. Make. Okay.
Cool. I can catch up on my emails real quick.
Was it a bad fire?
It was a pretty large grass fire. It got into a heavily wooded area.
Oh.
Hello.
Are you there, Mr. Gunderson?
I'm here.
Hello, Ray.
So, hey, Craig, did the TPX folks send you a copy of the service agreement?
Yes, they did. I've been kind of waiting until we get word back from county to
Yeah.
start bringing up any contracts to review. I haven't read it, but they did send it to me.
Yeah. It's 18 pages.
Going to give me some good reading material tonight then.
Yeah.
And I just got back. They're still out. They're still out fighting a pretty large fire right now. I just got back from it. A large grass fire south of town. We've been out there since about lunch.
Sounds like fun. Did you take some
No.
hot dogs?
Way too hot today for a fire. Way too hot.
Andrew is supposed to be joining us.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Hi, Susan.
Just thinking I've been having fits lately. I finally got the new Zoom software downloaded.
Ooh, yay.
It wouldn't let me get on last week.
Well, Mindy, look at you go. You're just firing away at this thing. You got
I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm trying to.
afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Johnny.
Johnny,
Johnny,
Hello.
Chief, looks like you're on mute.
Yeah, I was trying to kill a fly in my office, and I didn't want to be clapping in y'all ear. Flies driving me nuts.
Hmm.
hi, Susan.
Hi.
Do I?
Mindy, one thing I didn't think of, do you happen to have a picture of what our current city seal looks like handy right there? Or
Picture.
can you seal
Ooh.
something real quick or do you have a seal somewhere handy to show?
I can certainly make one.
That'll work.
You can put it on that.
Sure. All right.
Bless you.
Hi, Judy.
Hello. Hey, Judy.
Who's on the iPhone?
Somebody who's muted.
Me.
Who's me?
Oh, Linda.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Linda. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to change your name on here so it shows up.
I couldn't get in on the computer, so I had to use my phone.
Linda, have you updated the software on your computer?
Well, I'm out of town and I was trying to use the Chromebook here and it's
Gotcha.
not letting me all the way in.
Gotcha.
No. I keep trying.
And Mayor Kelly said he may or may not be able to make the 5:30. He did come pick up his book, Chromebook though.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying yesterday he wouldn't be at the meeting,
I think I got into it now.
but we got us quorum, so if he shows up, great. If not, then we'll manage.
Mindy, I
Is
think
that you?
my,
I think is that your Chromebook? There
okay,
it
I
is.
got in. Cool.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's me. That's Linda. I got in.
Love your picture. There you are.
I think I got into it now.
Linda, you're probably gonna have to do something with your phone.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready, Mindy?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let me read our disclaimer. Some members of the city council may participate via telephone or video conference. A quorum may or may not be physically present in the city council chambers. Texas Government Code 551.127A-2. Citizens wishing to make comments should email mparks@evermantx.net, mparks@evermantx.net. Citizens comments received prior to the meeting adjourned will be read to the council. We will go to item 2, discussion items. Item 1, the modification of city seal and the patches for uniforms for emergency services. Craig Spencer.
All right, we started, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Conversations, I regularly have staff meetings with all of my members of the police department. And one of the conversations that came up was our patch. This is our current patch that we're currently wearing. And some of the complaints were that one is that the patch doesn't really reflect anything about what the city of Everman is about. I mean, other than having the slogan, best little city in Texas, there's nothing that reflects anything about Everman or what we are or how we're founded. So over the last couple of months, I put it out to the guys and I said, if design a patch, come up with, tell me what you want, what you like. So after a couple of months of them working, this was something that they came up with. In our meeting the other night, as we were working on this patch, one of the things that came up was that the city currently does not have a real city seal. Mindy can show you our current seal. Our current seal literally says City of Everman, Texas across the top, and in big letters in the middle, it just says seal. There's nothing fancy, nothing that reflects anything special about Everman or our history or anything at all. A city seal is required. It's required by the Texas Administrative Code, and it has to meet certain requirements, which is why it says across the top, City of Everman, Texas, and then down here at the bottom, it says seal. And then our date of incorporation, July 7, 1945. As we were discussing the patch and how we wanted to incorporate something special about Everman, we came up with these 3 items here. One is the World War I planes that were based here out of Barron Field. Another one being a train engine, because Everman was founded because of the rail depot that was here. And then a Longhorn to just signify the agricultural history of Everman itself. We talked about changing the color scheme of the patch to a red, white, and blue with a blue outline and silver lettering, as the gold just doesn't really reflect too much of or really match anything else that we have. So this is kind of the design they've come up with. What we would like to do with this is not only get council's approval on the police department patch, but we'd like to propose that the council actually adopt this center portion, just the seal portion, as the official seal for the city of Everman. If anybody here wants to discuss it, have any ideas, this is just a sketch. I would have to get an artist to actually draw up a real thing. These are just clip arts that were pulled and drawn over to the image to kind of give us an idea of what it would look like. But if council has any input on it, be more than open to listen to that input. We can change it however council would like. If council does want to proceed forward with making an official seal for the city that reflects the history, we would draft a resolution. with a copy of that through the attorney and adopt an official seal for our city.
Okay, now why the emphasis on the plane?
Because of Barron Field. During World War I, Barron Field was located just south of Everman, and there's actually one building still standing right there, right off of Oak Grove Road, and it's a historical marker for this area. Before Everman was really founded, it served as a military base. This whole area did, and that's what that plane signifies there.
They actually trained pilots to send to World War One.
Yep, for the
And there's
Canadian Air Force, I believe, as well, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And there's a
It was
local man
Canadian.
there's a local man whose mother was a nurse out there, and he wrote a book about it.
It was
it's on-
Canadian and British flyers to start, and then when the U.S. entered the war, then it became U.S.
Yes.
also.
And what would be the cost to modify the seal?
Most things are done electronically now. So to adopt it as our seal, it would just be whatever cost for merchandise. So we'd have to order a new stamp for the city secretary, and that would probably cost us. They're not cheap. They're about $100 for the seal stamp. The patches and so forth, I would work that into my next budget, my uniform budget for this next year. So I wouldn't be asking for any extra funds above and beyond what I normally ask as far as uniforms. We have to order patches regularly anyway. We have to pay, I think it's a $75 art setup fee up front, but then I still have to purchase patches regardless. Instead of purchasing the gold patches this next round, I would like to purchase the new patch if you guys agree.
Now,
Really, any other cost would just be how you wanted to advertise the city seal. If you wanted the seal made to be displayed inside of city council chambers or on the building, just whatever those costs would be, but it would be minimal. We're not expending anything just in changing and adopting it.
now,
When are you
doesn't that-
talking about doing this?
Well, right now it's just a discussion. I kind of wanted to just get your input. If you have any input, I can certainly take it back, come up with a couple of designs. If you don't like what we've got, present it back to you. And when you as council are happy with what we've designed, then we can move forward with getting a resolution drafted and adopted. So really it's on your timeline.
I'd like to suggest you remove the TH after the 7, July 7, comma, 1945.
Okay.
Now, Craig, you were talking about getting a stamp. Didn't Edna also have a stamp?
Yes, but her seal is different. She has to have a specific municipal court of record seal. I can actually pull that seal up. Her seal is specific to the court.
Okay.
For his letterhead, would it just be copied over? How do y'all do letterhead now?
Right now it's pre-printed, but it's printed with a different logo. It's really the older logo. It's not our seal. It's a logo that's very similar to this one right here. It has the city of Everman with the state around it. This is what's on almost all of our city letterhead.
It's just a graphic.
Right.
So Craig, you just need a consensus from us to move forward with this? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, sir. Just kind of getting a consensus. And if anybody has any input that they'd like to provide, we can change it up and I can work it however you'd like to present next month or.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I am too.
Sounds good to me.
Me too.
We're good.
All right, Craig, well, I would go ahead and move forward with it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move down to item B, tree trimming ordinance number 753. And I believe this is Susan Mackey.
It is. Okay, last November, November 12th, we redid the ordinance 753, and we included the 15-foot vertical clearance. And so the fire trucks and just tall vehicles can drive along the sides of the curbs, the sides of the roads, and not scrape the top. And that was cool. Mindy, would you please look at page 3 on that? I think we have 7 ayes and 7 nays. That's we might need to adjust that. On Monday, June 8th, in the mail, I got a letter from Donna, and I got a registered letter from Donna with a code violation for my tree that was hanging over the street. I don't have a tree that's hanging over the street. Mine is in the dead center of my yard. So I went out there and looked, and it was actually the tree that's on the driveway of one of my neighbors. So I called Donna and said, I don't want a ticket for this. And she came and we talked. And in the meantime, I had been, all of a sudden, people up and down my street are getting these letters, and they know I'm city council. So boy, did my phone ring.
I bet.
What is this? What's a row? What's an ROW? What's a row? It's a right of way. And so bottom line is, I think we need to do a better job of communicating to our citizens when we make some kind of change that's going to impact them, especially when there's a code violation attached to it. And I talked to them. Donna came out and talked to me, and I had the right things in mind. And so I'd been telling people right. And a lot of them are little old people, and they have trouble walking out to the street, let alone dragging a ladder and a tree trimmer cutter thingy. And so what am I going to do? How do I get this trimmed? So I would tell them maybe a family member, maybe a neighbor, because a lot of the neighbors were having to do this. Maybe, call a business to come out and trim. And of course, the first thing they would say was they can't afford that because they're living on a fixed income. I understand. So I told them also to contact Donna. She told me I could tell them that. And so the hubbub has died down, and several people up and down the streets are working on getting their trees trimmed. There's a bunch of them that haven't, and those are the folks I expected that they're going to have a little. I sent everybody an email. I don't know if I know how to do this. I'm going to click the share button. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Chief. Okay, I flat out stole this graphic. I went out and copied it and pasted it. And from Port Angeles, Washington, on their website. And it's called tree trimming, exactly what you see, that whole little graphic. And it gives first grade English, 20 words or less. It's very clear cut what they're talking about. But what I really like is that graphic, because it shows that the trees need, and theirs I think is 14 feet. It's kind of tiny, but it shows clearly that the tree needs to be cut back at the curb where the homeowner's grass and the concrete meet. You're still responsible for the curb all the way out to where the concrete touches the street. And people don't understand that. So I had some discussion with that. But my suggestion is we create something similar to this and put it on our website. But we're not communicating well. Also, when we pass a new ordinance that's got some kind of teeth to it like this, perhaps we should put on our library crawl sign, new city ordinance about tree trimming on the website. And then on the website have a big button that says what's new. And then they click that, and then there it says tree trimming or garbage day or whatever. And they can click that button and then get this kind of graphic or something like that. Make it very user friendly. And I'm suggesting all of this based on what I've been going through for the last week with my neighbors at both sides of the street, several streets around. I just think we need to be more open, and we need to just share with everybody what we've just passed, because it impacts everybody. And when we just pass it and stick it in the books and move on, it's not fair to the citizens. I mean, because it's going to impact them as it has the last couple of weeks. Also, City Hall, I think we're getting ripped off. I know that Donna has to send it regular mail and then send it via signature required. And that's like $6 or $7. The day I got this, I got both letters, and one envelope was just regular mail. And the second one was with the green card that I had to sign. It had already been ripped off the envelope. I didn't get to sign it. So if we're paying $6 for a citizen's signature, we're not getting that. So we need to look into that, because that's a lot of money that the mailman, the letter carrier, is just ripping it off, scribbling something and walking off with it. So that was something that, hey, that's a lot of money. Because she has to do that with every single code violation letter she sends out. Okay, I'm done talking. Thank you.
Susan, if you've got a little time, why don't you come down and visit with Mindy and you two discuss this as far as the website goes and get her kind of pointed in the direction you're talking about.
Cool. Mindy, expect me next week.
I will.
Oh, well, maybe later this week. This is just Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Just
so I'm
Tuesday.
still lost.
I have a comment. With us being so small, would it be possible for, if you send it out regular, you say you're sending it out regular mail and certified, correct?
She has to, by law, do it both ways.
By us being small, would it be possible to call the person as a reminder?
Johnny, I honestly don't think she's got that kind of time. She's driving up and down every street and noting addresses. There's one address not too far from here that's got their fence line. They have bamboo growing out to the curb. So it would be nice, but I honestly don't think she's got time for that. Plus, there's so many people that we don't have phone numbers for. And there's no way to get a phone number unless they've given it to us somewhere in the, I don't even know where.
So to kind of give you a little bit of insight, we had 81 tree violations in one neighborhood alone.
Yes.
And she has had to send letters and post notices and all. She has a pretty hefty workload when it comes to code.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the reasons why we came to council to ask them to pass this tree ordinance, just because it has just tremendously overgrown. We've damaged ambulances
Yes.
and fire trucks to begin with. So she's trying to get those notices out. We have no intentions of hammering our residents right now. We're just trying to get the information out. Could we do a better job of that? Yes, I agree. We could certainly do the public education portion of that and try to get our citizens aware. I have no problem putting that together and putting that out via Facebook or getting that taken care of with her.
I hadn't thought of Facebook.
I'm sorry.
I hadn't thought of Facebook. Sorry, I'm muttering.
Yeah, no worries. We can definitely push that out and get that information out there.
Is she the only person for code enforcement?
Yes. Now our fire marshal does assist in some areas, and he is assisting with this tree ordinance just because of how many violations we have citywide. But I mean, you're talking about the literally thousands of code violations we have within the city on a regular basis. She has to stay on top of. So she does have a hefty workload.
It was saying something about what is the cost? I noticed it said something about $2,000. What is that for?
The fine is up to $2,000, and that's just any standard misdemeanor fine that's associated with code violations. Typically, what happens is the judge does not rule commonly that they're going to have to pay $2,000. The ultimate goal with any code violation is to gain voluntary compliance. So even when they're issued a citation, they're set up to have a court date. They'll come before the judge. The judge will meet with both the person who was issued the citation and Donna, the code enforcement officer, and see if they can't come up with a resolution. Usually the judge offers them one opportunity, gives them an extension, gives them a time period to comply. And if they don't comply, then the judge will enforce a penalty, typically a fine and or community service. And that penalty can range up to $2,000. But I can tell you, we have a very conservative judge, and those fines I have never seen a fine for $2,000 come from our court.
Now, are those warnings that they put on your door?
Yes, those are just notices. So by law, she has to provide a written notice that has to be.
Okay, so they do receive a sticker or something on their door, right? Correct.
Yes, so she has door hangers and she mails them letters.
Okay.
I got 2 letters. This is one of them. The other one was identical. I just had to sign for it.
And there's no penalty.
I've seen the warning stickers or whatever. That's the reason why I was asking about those.
Yes, ma'am. She does have those.
But they're pre-printed with other things we were talking, and she doesn't have them pre-printed with code violation for tree trimming. So that's one reason she's having to send out a letter and the certified letter. And each letter is individual to the homeowner. It's not like it's one letter and she just types in the name. There's stuff she has to type in there also. It takes a while.
Could you describe the utilities easement, what that means?
Where in reference to what? I'm sorry.
To the trimming for utility easements.
It's in the letter, Chief.
Is it? I'm sorry, I haven't read that letter. So utility easements, typically those that's required from the electric company. If a homeowner does not trim their trees back from the utility easements, they can be held liable for any damages that result. So the most common one we get is tree limbs that are in power lines. If they do not cut them away from the power lines, that is the homeowner's responsibility. If they do not cut them away from the power lines, that tree winds up breaking and snaps that power line, the homeowner can be responsible for those repairs and the cost. A lot of times what happens is folks will neglect to trim their trees back from utility easements, and Encore will come through and they'll trim it back, but they also send a bill for it, or they add a stimulus on top of your electric bill if they can.
I
So
was
if the
not
tr-
aware of that.
Whoa, I didn't know we got
That's
charged
even
for that.
on alleys and stuff as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So if the tree's in somebody else's yard, but yet it's hanging over on your side and there's the pole and the wires above, what happens in that situation? Is it still the homeowners?
It's the homeowner of wherever the tree resides. So
Okay,
if it's your neighbor's tree, that would be the person who's responsible for trimming that back.
okay, all right, good.
Anything else on this?
No,
Okay, let's move down to the NOI, Notice of Intent, Resolution number 2020-06-01. Who wants to talk about this?
Andrew Friedman has joined us to kind of go through the process and explain why we're doing what we're doing. So Andrew, if you could take it away, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Gunderson. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Andrew Friedman with Samco Capital Markets. Just before the pandemic broke out, I was before you all as we sold our certificates of obligation to the Texas Water Development Board. Mr. Gunderson approached me along with Mr. Nicoletti about some water and sewer and other improvements for the council's consideration as you go into this budget adoption and tax rate adoption process this summer. And to fund these improvements, we put together a timetable. If you'll remember from the water board financing we just went through, the legal process to issue certificates of obligation is to adopt a notice of intention resolution, which is before you this evening, where we outline the projects we intend to finance. We set a not to exceed borrowing amount, and we set the date at which we intend to accept or to take bids and to adopt an ordinance approving the sale of those certificates of obligation. So this is your first legal step to going through the financing process. With your approval this evening, that notice of intention then by law is published in your legal paper or your paper of record for 2 consecutive weeks, and also posted on your website continuously for a minimum of 46 days. At the end of that period of 46 days, the city can then receive bids and adopt an ordinance selling the certificates of obligation. So based on all of those timing requirements, we would then be back on August 18th to receive bids on these certificates of obligation. The timing for this is such that in order to comply with truth in taxation, as you go through your budget process and the tax rate adoption process, that we sell whatever debt we intend to levy a tax for before we adopt that tax rate. And so by receiving bids on August 18th, that's ahead of the date where you would formally adopt your tax rates, and we could then proceed. And so with that said, taking a step backwards, I think that you all have been briefed on the projects being discussed. but they include some water and sewer improvements, I think some ground storage tanks, as well as improvements for a new neighborhood that is slated to begin construction. And I turn that back over to Mr. Gunderson to go back into the details of the projects to be financed. But in a nutshell, this is the first legal step to begin that process. It goes very similarly to the Texas Water Development Board, with the exception that we're not selling these to the Texas Water Development Board. So where we had about a 2-year, year and a half start to finish on that financing, this would have funds delivered to the city on September 15th. With your approval tonight, we'd start putting together an offering document that's then solicited to the Wall Street banking institutions across the country for them to consider bidding on these certificates of obligation on August 18th. We'd go through a rating process with Standard & Poor's, and we would ultimately, the interest rates that we would receive would be based upon that credit rating we'd receive from Standard & Poor's. So I'm happy to answer any and all questions that you have. And Mr. Gunderson, if I've left out any pertinent information that you'd like me to go back over, I'm certainly happy to do so.
No, I just want to clarify, if you've looked at the document that was in the packet, the limit on this issuance is 3.8 million. We got a quote from our engineer with regard to putting in a new well of about 1.1 million. In addition to that, we've identified 3 storage tanks that need to be replaced. They are way past their life. And the plan is to replace 2 of them with one larger one, and then have a second one, 100,000 gallons. So we would have a 200,000 gallon and a 100,000 gallon new tank. That cost will be in the neighborhood of 500,000 to 700,000. So about half of that 3.8 million is water projects related to the new well. The other part, which we have not briefed council on, we in administration, the chief, and our public works people have been working on identifying in our CIP budget things that we're going to need to get done over the next 5 to 10 years. And some of those things are pretty urgent. We've been talking about the fire hall for quite some time now. And that's one piece of it. That was $1 million piece of it. We're also looking at completely redoing the annex. And there's an opportunity to acquire some property for the future expansion of City Hall. So those 3 things are the additional, if you will, general fund expenses. And the reason I segregated the 2, the water fund or the water projects will be funded by water revenues, not by tax, even though we have a subordinate liability in the general fund to pay in the event our water revenues don't cover it. But half of it would be an addition to our ad valorem tax rate. As you probably know, there's an INS portion of our property tax rate that is where we collect money, put it in a fund separate that pays for bond obligations and interest. So this particular document that you're looking at today, what you need to do is look at it and say, I agree or I don't agree with any aspect of that document. If you don't like the 3.8 million, that can be changed. At this point, nothing's concrete. It's totally up to you and what you want to do for your city.
And Mr. Gunderson, if I could interrupt just briefly, this notice of intention sets a not to exceed amount of $3.8 million between now and August 18th, when we actually will receive bids. We can opt to sell less than $3.8 million. We're obligating ourselves with this document to not take out more than $3.8 million. So we can always scale back this bond issuance so long as the projects being considered for funding are included within that use of proceeds. But we're bound by that moving forward. And so if you all approve this week and next week the council decided that you didn't want to proceed with the purchase of property adjacent to City Hall, for example, we could still go through the process. We would scale down the bond issuance size to exclude the projects you don't want to move forward with and still keep this timetable.
What is the date, Andrew, that we have to lock in the amount in the covered projects?
We really need to have it by the time we post the preliminary official statement, which would be Tuesday, August 11th. So we'd really like to know by that first week in August.
All right. Well, we're going to be well into our budget process by then, and we will be covering all these things. And I think at that point, we can make those choices as a council and advise Andrew what the consensus and agreements are, because we should be able to do that in the budget process. But at this point, we want to approve this resolution to set the limit at 3.8, and we can adjust that before August 11th.
Correct.
Okay, so what exactly are we voting on tonight?
It's a
approval
resolution.
of-
It's a resolution. We have an obligation to notify the public that we intend to issue certificates of obligation in the amount of 3.8 million or less, depending on council's budget process. But as Andrew pointed out, we got to let him know before August 11th what that final resolution will be. It's just because of the timing that we have to do these things, we got to go up to our tax adoption rate date and back up and make sure we get all the steps done timely, so that if we decide we want to do something, we're not caught without any tax revenues.
Correct. And also I would suggest that your approval of this resolution tonight does not obligate the city to go through with this financing. It's merely the first legal step to be able to do so come August. So by your voting for this, you're not obligating the city to borrow money at this juncture.
How are we going to pay it back?
It will
Well-
come from water and sewer revenues, TIF revenues that have accrued and continue to accrue over the years from your tax increment financing zone, and also ad valorem taxes potentially.
Basically, Johnny, the general fund expenditure or general fund projects will be covered by our property tax rate. Our water fund projects like the new well and the storage tanks will be funded by water revenue and or EDC support and the TIF funds. Which
Do we
are
know how
now
much we have currently in our TIF fund?
just over 100,000, and we're about to invoice for this year.
Okay,
So We should have close to 200,000.
Okay. So you
Okay,
just
now-
need, you just need for us to approve the resolution so we can move forward?
Yes.
Okay.
And you said this will be published in the newspaper for the next 45 days?
It'll be on
It'll
our
be-
website for the next 46 days. We have to put it in the newspaper for the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this?
No?
Okay, we'll go to new business, consideration possible action. Item 1, approve consideration and approval of a resolution, resolution number 2020-060-01 by the City Council of the City of Edmond, Texas, authorizing and approving publication of notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation complying with the requirements contained in Securities and Exchange Commission Rule 15C2-12 and providing an effective date. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I move we approve resolution number 2020-06-01 as read in the amount not to exceed $3.8 million. Do
Second.
I need to add anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
And who was the second?
I did.
Johnny.
Okay, one more time. Who was it?
Judy.
Judy, okay. All right, motion made second. Any further discussion? Mindy, would you poll the council?
Yes. Place 3.
No.
Did you get place 1?
Place 1. I didn't see Linda. Yeah. Place 1.
Aye.
Place 4.
aye.
Place 5.
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Andrew. So.
Thank you all very much. Hope to see you in person in August.
Yes.
All right. I'll probably be talking to you this week, Andrew.
I'll be looking for your call. Bye-bye.
All right. Mindy, citizens' comments. Do we have anything?
I'm checking right now. No, we don't.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we don't have mayor's report on here, so I won't discuss the little meeting that Craig and I had this morning, but we'll include it. I'll send something out to you guys, just kind of tell you what our meeting was about this morning. So being said, then we will adjourn.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.